No, it's from town, and I told them to put off on my account because it needs to be there for public. Yeah, that's great. I'm so glad about that. Thank you. You're welcome. Very good. Yeah. Time on this. Yeah.
Good. All right, so it is 6 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and kick off this city council meeting. It's July 1st. Crazy how fast this year is going, halfway through. July 1st, 6 o'clock, city council meeting. We're down here at the mill. We are recording this and we'll later publish it on our YouTube channel. So with that, I'll call the meeting to order and ask all to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, great. And we are going to go ahead and do an oath of office for Councilmember Kurt Hilt, who will be taking the seat of Councilmember Marcus Tadgett. And we're grateful for Kurt to be here and to fill in for Marcus. Great pick, Council. I appreciate it. So let's go ahead and do that oath of office so that he can participate tonight. Raise your right hand. I, Kurt Hilt.
I, Kurt Hilt,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United
and
States
laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington
and the laws and ordinances of the City of Lake Stevens,
and the laws and ordinances of the city,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge the duties
perform the duties
of the office
of the
of
office
City of Lake Stevens,
of City of Lake Stevens,
Council Position Number 7,
Council Position Number 7.
according to law.
According to the
Here you have them.
Shake his hand.
All right, so with that, if Clerk
supposed to shake his hand.
Chellen could give us,
Stand up. Oh.
oh, we didn't shake his hand. Okay. We running the gauntlet?
Like, wait a minute. Welcome again.
Can't get away with anything around here.
Something back there.
All right, so with that, let's do a roll call, Clerk Chellen.
Right. Councilmember Donahue, I was just looking to see if he's on, virtually, I don't see him right now. So he may try to get on.
Yeah, I did speak with him a little bit ago. He was going to try and make it. If not in person, then at least via Zoom.
Okay.
But if he's not here, I'd like to move to have him excused. Make a
Thank
motion.
you. Councilmember Daughtry,
Present.
Councilmember Peters Hagan,
Present.
Councilmember Shipman,
Present.
Councilmember Jorstad,
Here.
Councilmember Ewing,
Present.
Councilmember Hilt.
Here.
Okay, so we do have a motion to excuse Councilmember,
I'll
Council
second.
President Donahue. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion?
Sorry, who was the first?
Second was, the first,
Was-
the motion was Councilmember Shipman. Second was Councilmember Jorstad. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, great. Thank you. All right, so with that, Council Vice President Shipman, can we get a approval of the agenda?
Before we have the approval of the agenda, Clerk Kelly Chellen has a change to it.
Yeah, staff is asking to add an executive session tonight at the end of the meeting for potential litigation. This is a confidential session at the council for 15 minutes with action to follow. Oh, property acquisition. I apologize, not potential litigation. I'm so used to saying that. Property acquisition for tonight at 15 minutes
Okay.
at the end of the meeting.
I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the agenda
With the amendment.
with the amendment.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Got a mic. It's not an issue. I apologize.
Did we got approved? Okay.
Yes.
We kill that mic, whatever that mic is. Cool. All right. So with that, let's go to citizens' comments and let's go online. Do we have anybody online who wishes to provide citizens' comments tonight?
I don't see anybody. Again, as the mayor stated, if you'd like to speak to the council and you're on Zoom, if you can raise your digital hand, I can let you into the meeting. No.
Okay, and we do have a couple here in person. Did you want to do one as well?
Yeah.
Right here. No, not you, right here. She has a green, I don't know, in the front row. Did you want to?
I'm just showing my daughter.
Oh, you're showing a prime example. Good job. Yeah, yeah. Perfect. All right, great. We got Ray Welk first. You're up to bat.
Is that mic on? Yes. Okay, thank you. I don't know the timing.
Okay, so, we're gonna talk a little bit about the 116, 117 thing again.
Sorry.
And it sounds like the one way is perhaps a dead item. I'm hoping so anyway. But regardless, I would like to see that it stays at the forefront and I don't know whether it be signage or speed control in one form or another, speed bumps, the platform things or something to do that. Get a handle on that a little bit better, especially during school year. And I guess really that's all I have. I don't know what if I was supposed to say that now or one with the project planning.
No, right now is a good time for to talk about that, right?
So, yeah, that's really all I have, just that it stay there. That something happens in the near future, that it isn't another one of those where years pass by and nothing happens again. So that's getting a little.
Yeah, appreciate it, Ray.
Okay.
Good comments. And then I have, is it Lori?
I'm Lori. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you to everybody for listening to our comments about the 116, 117 loop idea. That was, it really affected so many. Yeah, I was late 3 times to work because I think how long it was going to take me to get to work. But it took only 20 feet for me to get out of Sunday Street. So it was a big impact, dangerous. Thank you so much for listening to our comments and deciding not to go with us. By the same token, my father was a very wise man, and he taught me that if you're going to do something, do it right the first time. Looking forward, I think the right thing to do is sidewalks. Maybe not all at once, maybe just a little portion. But let's do it right the first time and let's get started with actual honors.
Great, Lori. Appreciate it. Thank you. And then I have Carol, is it Kotzik? Carol? Right there. You're up to that, Carol. You came in out of the bullpen. We're going to pick you right up. Coming in as a relief pitcher.
I wrote down,
So 3 minutes. Go ahead.
letters.
Yeah.
Earlier today, I hope that they were received by the council and the mayor. Regarding issues that I have with the traffic cameras. I think that the biggest thing that I see is that it's a ban. For example, today just at 5:30, like it's getting ready to come down here, there was a motorcycle coming out of town. And it was a motorbike, a set of bikes with their motorized coming down a walkway. And he comes down the hill. Swerves out to go around the recycle bucket and the guy coming up the hill. Hit the kid on the bike and the kid on the bike went out in the road. Fortunately, there wasn't another car, but. The speed was definitely an issue, but that's not going to resolve. The cameras are not going to resolve that, and so I did an extensive study. So that you guys could review it, about speed bumps, they're not bumps, it's a different situation. It's for areas that, you know, they're graduate and not just like.
Excuse me, could you please speak into the mic? I just had a citizen message me and say they couldn't hear you. Thank you.
But the thing that I'm concerned about is that I understand the cameras, but there's ways of avoiding them. We have a 15% rate of population that doesn't want to follow the laws. And they can put something over their license plates when the motorcyclists use what they call flip plates, so that they can't be seen. And the cameras aren't going to hit them. So I think that I'm really concerned that I don't want to end my life or even haven't done any people just be fine. But it's not people from speeding. It's like what I call dead man's curve on Lake Shore. The motorcycles like to go down because they can put the knee down and it's pretty cool to go down around the corner. And there's been several deaths there related to that. And we put up candlesticks, we requested those, and they put them up, they're like little teeny cigars, and there's no way of, there's like a 10-inch block space, you know, down the lake, it's in there. So I think that speed cameras aren't gonna help with the safety data. I think there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed, and they're not gonna be addressed by them. I understand that, you know, probably vendor gave you a good sales pitch on it. I know a lot about it. I have been following through you in Kirkland and other areas. And they're not in all this stuff, and they don't slow people down, they come to the house. And 85% of people in the city follow the laws. It's the 15% that are making it difficult in residents. And I would like you to realize that it might be something to just look at and address and study, because speed humps slow people down. And it's a big concern because we have a lot of traffic, a lot of foot traffic. We have people that are, you know, walking with kids. We have people with disabilities that are trying to walk on the side of the road and there's no place for them. And there's recycle buckets on the sidewalks, which are supposed to be for people that waste management uses them to deposit their buckets. It's just a very complicated situation. You've grown 82% in 4 years.
Mayor, we're at 3 minutes.
A couple seconds to wrap up for me, Carol. and then-
I'm just saying that I hope that you review the information that I put together. And I think that you'll find that there's some questions they might answer. I think that the cameras, you know, could be effective in certain school zones perhaps, like at Sunnyside. When the parents are dropping their kids off, there's 40 cars.
Yeah.
Parked in the road, if they get the school zone. There's stop traffic, so I would just like you to, you know, look at my letter. If you need more information, I'm happy to provide it. And I love this city, you know, and I don't want to be known as the flash city. Everywhere you go, there's a camera watching. Because right now, we're the ones around that city.
Yeah. Okay, Carol.
Carol,
I
they
appreciate
have-
it.
They
Thank
have
you.
copies of every,
Maybe.
yes.
Okay. I don't have any other green sheets. So with that, let's go to council business, council vice president.
Okay, so council business, we'll start with Councilmember Daughtry.
I don't have anything to report other than the fact that Aquafest is coming up really quick. Just a lot faster than last year. 2 weeks early, we are having a carnival. It's going to be moving in on Tuesday. I'm hoping that we're already out there when we're bringing them in. So that I'm watching that carefully. But everybody come on down, enjoy whatever you enjoy at Aquafest. It's going to be a great time.
Thank you. Councilmember Peter Shagan.
Last Thursday, I attended Lake Stevens Sewer District Board meeting, and one of the issues that we have been dealing with, a small issue, but kind of a general annoyance to everyone, is the issue of sunken manhole covers and so forth. On their agenda, they did have an appropriation for $93,000 to fix about 26 manhole covers, primarily on 20th Street Southeast. So, good news. moving ahead and hopefully smooth out that road a little bit for some folks. We have some along Davies also that are being addressed, a couple. And then looks up like on 91st also. But we've been talking about this issue for a number of months and finally we're seeing some action. And so positive stuff. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Jarstad?
Thank you. Thanks for bringing up Aquafest. That was on my list. Hope everybody has a chance to come down and enjoy that. Wednesdays, as everyone knows, is the farmers market, but starting tomorrow, we'll also have music in the park tomorrow and every Wednesday in July. So just want to encourage people to take advantage of the great things that are happening in our city. Bring your families and come shop at the farmers market and listen to some music. It's going to be beautiful weather. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Ewing?
Thank you. I didn't get a chance to report. I attended the open house on June 18th, the 116th, 117th. I want to thank city staff for the great job they did presenting there, and Ray and some of the other people that are here tonight. Really impressive public input that they shared there. And I just appreciate how respectful the people were and how on point they were. And I noticed that not a single person from outside that area weighed in on that matter. Sometimes we get city issues where people from different areas or not even in the city want to weigh in on something. It's a neighborhood specific thing. And so really impressive that the folks, how they presented that. To the point today in Monroe, I noticed they have speed humps on a road similar to what Carol was talking about. And so be curious to know what that would look like maybe here in Lake Stevens. Those are in some areas that are in school zones and high traffic along straight stretches, similar to 116th, 117th that we have the issue of speed, an improvement I saw in the city of Monroe today. So I attended the AWC conference in Kennewick last week with Mayor Gailey. I just want to touch on a few things. Our city staff, the mayor and city staff presented on AI. Our city is very much on the cutting edge of that. And we got really, really positive feedback on that in our strategic plan and our public works accreditation. And then when people saw how impressed they were with our AI and with the strategic plan, and then they learned that we have the second highest bond rating in the state and we're the 10th safest city in the state of Washington. I mean, people were really wowed with the city of Lake Stevens and what an impressive city it is. And it just made me really grateful and proud to be a member, a citizen of this community, to be able to contribute to that. The energy, your AI search that you use, costs 5 to 6 times the energy that a Google search costs. So energy, if we want to expand AI, which is something that we're trying to do, it's going to cost us a lot of energy. And the regional community justice center that they have there, we have one in Arlington, but we got to tour that. That's been a really significant success. One thing that was noted there that the folks that are not supportive of the police, the defund and abolish police folks, they have not been participating in the opportunities they have for citizens academies that they have, that they presented there. But a lot of people have been able to take advantage of that. So really positive feedback about the Regional Community Justice Center. And also they had positive feedback for our Regional Justice Center as well. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Hilt?
I have a couple things to say. Councilmember Ewing, that makes me smile what you just talked about. The city has moved from when I was on the council, and it's even stronger fiscally, has more infrastructure projects going on. PD is accredited, Public Works is accredited. This makes me smile. However, the thing of growth still plagues us. It plagues us. It took the third public comment to bring up the word growth, and that is going to continue to be something that we have to work on those, everything that comes from the growth. I'm mindful of why I'm here. And I thank the council for the appointment and your confidence. We have a lot of work ahead with our budget process coming up and our little break. But I'm here to work.
Thank you. I just wanted to touch base. I went to the Westlake Dog Park opening last Wednesday. It's right off the Bayview Trail. So it's different than any dog park I've been to. I'm a dog lover. I go to dog parks. And this one, you actually walk down the trail a little bit, and it's just these couple small sections that you can pull off, let your dog off their lead, sit down on a bench if you want. Do bring your own water though, because there's no place for your dog to drink. But the interesting thing I saw, and I don't know who designed this, but like I said, I've been to a few dog parks, is they have an elevated trail for the dog owners to walk on that's made out of kind of a wood chip material. So as we all know, any of us that walk our dogs on grass, your feet get wet. And so it gave owners a way to kind of loop the area without getting their feet wet while their dogs can wander and socialize. So whoever designed that, that's a great idea. And I've never seen that before. And if you've not been on the Bayview Trail, I encourage you to go to the Bayview Trail. It's not very long yet. It's, work in progress, but the work they've done thus far, it is a gorgeous trail and it has one of the coolest bridges I've ever walked across. Definitely designed to last. Very, very well made. So, and I met some super nice people there. So I just encourage everyone. I think this is a great asset. I think, Brett, this was your idea originally, wasn't it?
Long time ago.
That's what I thought a long time ago. I remember hearing about it. And so it's just amazing to see the trail open and the dog parks open. Jill from the city, who's not here tonight, she was here with a couple of her crew, or at the opening with her crew, handing out doggy bags and some information. So it was a great experience. I just wanted to piggyback on some of my fellow council members about how exciting it is with everything we've got going on now that we've finally reached July. We've got our farmers markets, we've got music in the park. We've got our carnival for Aquafest, which has been a huge demand ever since the pandemic. So it's so exciting. And I want to thank all the volunteers. Those that don't know, Aquafest is run by volunteers, all the volunteers that help put this together and work so hard. And then I did receive a question about the heavy equipment and material back here. So anyone who's listening, the plan is to have it moved, correct? For Aquafest, moved off site and then come back and open up the project after
Yeah,
Aquafest,
so
correct?
the way we're saying it, what we're saying about this is going to be flat and safe.
Flat and safe, that's a good thing. Okay, and then that wraps up my citizens' comments, but I did have a question if we could make a motion to officially end the 116th and 117th pilot project or program.
You can make the motion.
Are you making the motion?
I don't know that.
I just don't know, can we do that at this point?
It would have been,
It's not part of the agenda.
it would have been something
not on the
that would have been added to the agenda.
Okay.
Set the agenda, but you're the council. You can do whatever you want.
I guess I'd say, when are we going to evaluate the responses?
Yeah,
Aaron is online. Aaron Halverson, did you want to,
or we have Ben right behind.
or Ben, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ben.
So we've received a draft memo from PH, our consultant, which we've reviewed. And so in the next couple of weeks, we'll get the full memo as well. And so then we can do a full evaluation of what those metrics are. We do have the draft metrics posted on the website as well.
So Ben, bottom line, when's the next meeting? When's our next discussion on this? Kim?
Good evening, council. Yes, we plan to bring a brief update back to council on July 15th when we're going to do a mid-year capital project update
Okay.
as well. So we'll have several slides to talk about the couplet project and briefly overview the metrics and the responses that we received.
Yeah.
The couplet project is officially closed, but if you would like to make a motion on it, we're not opposed to that either.
Yeah, I don't know what the motion would do.
I guess what I'm trying to drive at is that we have a number of folks here that are kind of questioning whether we're going to continue with this one-way situation. And I think the feedback that we've all gotten is it didn't work very well.
Yeah, the data doesn't support. it.
Yeah, so I guess we
Yeah,
could at least assure the citizens that we're not going forward with what took place up.
Yeah,
I'm happy to do that this evening. Yes, I can confirm that we are not moving forward with the one-way couplet implementation, any additional or permanent. And we mentioned that to the people that attended the public open houses last week and the week prior. So our team is currently working on evaluating alternative designs. We still want it to be cost effective, and we're going to be kicking off the design, and we can dig into that a little bit more on July 15th before council breaks.
So based on what you just said, Ms. Blinker, we don't really need to waste any more staff time on the couplet thing. We could just put that to rest and get it done. So
So Kim has spoken, the couplet is dead.
Aye.
Okay, no motion needed. Cool.
Thank you.
Things happen.
You like that?
There you go.
So, and then for follow-up, looks like July 15th is the next time that we will discuss, ways forward on that project. And just so Ray knows and everyone knows, that's on our TBD list. Like, we will tackle that one. We will tackle it soon. We just got to figure out which way we're going to go now without the couplet idea.
And I was gonna say, I think it's number 4 on the list.
Yeah, it is number 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and now we can move on to mayor business.
You get everybody?
Oh, we didn't get Ryan. Ryan just got here. Ryan.
Apologies,
Donovan.
everyone. I don't know if Kim was able to tell you I had a small family emergency that I had to take care of, but nothing that 5 stitches and a bubble tea couldn't fix. So thank you and sorry again for being late.
Sorry, Ryan, did you have any council business?
Nope, that's the most exciting thing.
That sounded like personal business.
Okay, so now we can move on to mayor business.
5 stitches sounds like a little bit of dirt and get back in the fight.
Yep.
Okay, real quick, couple things. I did attend the Association of Washington Cities conference last week. It was a great conference, lots of good discussion there. Very proud of our team. We took Aaron and Anya and Lori, thank you. And we presented on our APWA accreditation process, how we went through that process, how long it took us, and then the benefits of that accreditation process. We also talked a little bit about our strategic planning process as well. I was also able to be on another panel in which we talked about AI and how we're using AI within the city and how we actually, I should say, not necessarily how we're using it, but how we're planning to use it and doing so in a methodical manner. I would like to thank the American Legion. I'm glad you're here tonight. I was able to attend Saturday's memorial flag lowering for Councilmember Marcus Tadgett. And superb job by the American Legion as always. Thank you very much. It means a lot to our community that you guys support us and support the memorial and everything. So thank you. And I as well attended a very, very well attended celebration of life for Marcus on Sunday, and several council members were there as well as a lot of public. So he will be missed.
Hey, Brett, can I just add something?
Yeah.
It's very cool that Representative Del Bene, learning of Marcus Tadgett's passing, made the effort to fly a flag over the Capitol, have that flag. It was flown over June 23rd, and then it made its way across the country. And then you're able to present it to his widow, Marcella, at the celebration of life. I mean, what a class act. What a tremendous effort to recognize him and his service to our country.
Yeah, appreciate it. Great. Let's move forward then on the agenda, because that's what we do. City Department report. Everett Waterline. Let's talk about the water line.
Let's
Russ.
talk about the water line. Thank you, Russ Wright, Community Development Director for the City of Lake Stevens. At the last council meeting, there had been a request for an update on the Everett water line. I have a report in your packet, but just in summary, we do continue to negotiate and coordinate with the City of Everett. And at this point, they've told us they'll have comments back to us probably in another week or two. And since I put this packet together, the mayor has exchanged a couple of emails with some of the administration at Everett. So are hopeful to get a sit-down meeting and try and resolve these issues. But as you see in the packet, there are just a few issues, at least from our perspective, that remaining that we want, clarity of language. We want to make sure that there's parity in the agreement. And it has to meet legal muster, and that's been one of our concerns all along. And then that the permit process, the notification is simple and makes sense. So happy to take any questions, but that's a brief overview of where we're at.
Hey, real quick, just for context, I know Kurt knows about this situation, but the folks in the audience may not know. So the Everett water line is the water line that runs through the city. If you're going up 20th Street southeast, it's about 100 feet to your south, and it's those big pipes you see when you cross the trestle out to the south. So those pipes run underground on the south side of 20th Street, right in the middle of our commercial zoning area. So until we can create an agreement with the city of Everett on what can and can't be done on top of that water line, we can't commercially develop that space, that south side of 20th Street, southeast. So just to give you a little context of what we're talking about.
Director Wright, just really quick, can you provide some clarification or just an example maybe around the phrase that says avoids placing burdens on properties outside the water line? Tell me more about that.
Sure. So in two of the last drafts, Everett had wanted to create buffer zones beyond the edge of the easement. So like another 50-foot area, and those would be areas we consider that encumber those other properties. It's
Okay.
not part of their current easement.
Thank you. That's helpful. I appreciate that.
Would our agreement allow for construction activity over the top of the water line, or is that still
The
not allowed?
proposal would allow pavement in the first 30 feet of the water line over the, we'll say, the less critical pipes, and allow for such things as parking areas, storage areas, things like that. It just wouldn't allow structures.
Anything else for us?
Thank you. Oh,
Yeah, I just have a comment. I just want to thank the mayor and city staff for that's a huge lift there. And that would be outstanding for our economic development if we're able to secure a, favorable agreement.
Yeah, we've been holding that way for over 6 years, and I'm getting tired of holding.
How do you really feel there, Mayor?
Yeah, I know. All right, let's go to Ben with some Public Works 2025 citywide striping and thermoplastic update.
Okay, Kim Klinker should be sharing a screen shortly. So this is a department report about the 2025 citywide striping plan. I'm Ben Ronaji, senior civil engineer with the city. So our agenda for today, a quick introduction about why we need pavement markings, the difference between thermoplastic and paint markings, some of the markings that we have in Lake Stevens, and then what our plan for 2025 is, and any questions that you, the council members, may have. So quick introduction, why do we need pavement markings? So we need pavement markings to provide clear delineation for drivers. We need striping, crosswalks. Otherwise, poor markings can create confusion like you see here. Another thing is that markings will fade over time, which can also create confusion for drivers if you don't know where your lane is or where a crosswalk is or where you need to stop. And they wear out naturally during time because of heavy traffic, sunlight, and salt. And so a natural part of maintenance is replacing them regularly. There is specialized equipment that needs to be used for long line striping that the city currently does not have. However, we do have equipment to do crosswalks and other symbols. So a little bit about just thermoplastic and paint. So thermoplastic is basically you take a sheet of plastic on and place it on the ground and then apply heat to it. And it's very durable. It can last for about 3 to 5 years, but it's also expensive too. It can cost about $10 to $15 per square foot. And so here's a crosswalk at Davies Beach, and each crosswalk can cost about $2,000 to install, just in terms of materials and labor. The other type of marking that we use heavily is paint, and paint we use a lot in long line striping. For long line striping, we'll have a paint truck that does a pass down the road and then does another pass and then applies glass beads over it. And it will only last 1 to 3 years. And it's fairly inexpensive, costing 50 cents to $1 per linear foot. And so this is just kind of an idea for when we're doing pavement markings, the type of costs that start to occur. So, and now some of the markings that Lake Stevens has, we have 264 marked crosswalks across the city, many of them near school zones. We also have 180 miles of roads through the cities. These have long line stripings, which may include center lines, fog lines, both, or sometimes neither in the case of local roads. There's also symbols as well, such as pedestrians, bikes, turn arrows, stop bars, and other symbols. Our parks, they have striping as well, such as no parking, parking stalls, and ADA symbols. And so we have a lot of markings that need to be maintained regularly throughout the city. And so for 2025, this is our current plan for what we're going to be doing. So we had identified some critical locations with the streets crew based off of what we observed in the field, as well as citizen requests. These are locations that are close by to schools and on our major arterials. It includes 91,000 linear feet of paved, which equates to about 6.8 miles of roadway. There's also 24 crosswalks. We'll be remarking, 11 for the contractor to complete, and 13 for our public works street crew to complete. 6 of them have already been done. There's plastic symbols as well. And we'll also be providing some markings for our 3 parks here, Lundin, North Cove, and the Davies Beach parks. These markings will be done for the parks at night so as not to interfere with normal park operations. And so this is the normal maintenance that needs to be done every year. And so thank you, council members. Any questions or feedback?
Yeah, but thanks for bringing this forward. I've been interested in this process for some time because we are really deficient in striping and so forth throughout the city. I guess I'm just looking at the map. You have a crosswalk proposed at the Senior Center on Soper Hill Road. And so I'm assuming that's the crosswalk that goes across the road. Where would that crosswalk go to?
I think there might be
There's no sidewalk or walk area on basically either side of Soper Hill Road. So I could see you coming from the parking lot, but you're dumping people in a crosswalk into a shoulder of a road.
I'm not aware of a new crosswalk that is targeted to be installed there. So we can get clarity from the streets crew about
Okay,
their.
well, it shows on the map here.
Yeah, I do see that here on the map, the red dot that's on Soper Hill Road. So we can check and see if that was just an error. But yeah, I agree with you. It doesn't seem like a logical location. I know there's not an existing marked crosswalk out there, so that's one that we can double check on.
So I noticed a couple of places in the city with thermoplastic crosswalks on it that kind of drive me nuts. One of them is, the thing that drives me nuts about them is that when you're making a turn or you're going across them, some of that thermoplastic is in the tire area of where you're driving. And it seems to me that it ought to be shifted to where the tires aren't going across the thermoplastic and they last longer. There's only a few of them that I know where they're at. It says every time I turn a curve and I'm driving right over the thermoplastic when I don't understand why we're doing that and make them wear more.
I can jump in. We appreciate your feedback. We are currently updating our Ed Standard plans, and I think we do have a standard detail that shows how we would typically mark crosswalks. And I think that is the preferred standard application is to have one at the center line and then have equal spacing to ideally offset it with the wheel path. But that's something that we could specify more specifically in our EDS update, because I agree with your feedback.
So can you take the old ones up and then put them down, or how does that, do you have to take the old ones up before you redo them?
Yeah, there's different ways to go about it. I think in our case, since we have so many intersections with existing marked crosswalks, we tend to wait till they're significantly worn out before, if their bars are still holding up well. I don't know if we would allocate resources to completely remove and just shift it over. But if there is a significant concern, in general, we wanted to highlight that the ViewWorks service request is a great portal for people to submit requests for additional striping with long lane or crosswalks. But to answer your question specifically, if thermoplastic needs to get removed, we can include that in the contract. Sometimes they do that with grinding or sandblasting, and then we would apply a new thermoplastic in the new location.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you. I've seen, especially down here, down in this area, I see a lot of freshly painted crosswalks, especially down on Main Street and 20th. They were almost non-existent, and that was a major intersection for our city that I know is going to be going through some construction. So I'm glad that you prioritize that for our festivals and things we've got going on downtown. And I know I'm kind of a broken record here, and to some extent, we are dependent on our contractors' scheduling. But I would really like to see all the crosswalks done within a mile of the school. Make sure they're all visible prior to the start of school. I know last year they weren't all done until sometime in October. If we could bump that forward so that the crosswalks that need repainting near the schools can get that attention.
Yeah, thank you for your feedback. And I can just add that our pre-construction meeting with the contractor is tomorrow, and we did put provisions in the contract to do our best to ensure that all the work is completed before the end of August. So we have the number of working days and we have constraints about when that work shall be completed.
Thank you.
Quick question. For the paint, kind of a widespread between 50 cents and $1. It could be one price or it could potentially be double that. Is that for the consumables or does that also include labor? And I guess that same question would be for the plastic striping for the crosswalks.
It does include the labor materials and labor. However, there's also additional costs as well, such as traffic control. If you want to do a lane, you have to shut that entire lane down, and that can take a decent amount of man hours to do.
And each project would require that or not require that. Okay.
I can add too as well. It depends on the scale of the project. If we have, just 200 linear feet of paint striping or 91,000 linear feet of paint striping, it's the same paint truck and the same crew, different traffic control, but sometimes we get better prices based off of the quantity of the work with thermoplastic or paint. So it is variable. It is a variable cost, and we try to be a little bit conservative when we're doing our engineer's estimate. And then depending on like the time of year or material availability, there is some uncertainty with the actual bid prices, but.
Thanks.
I did have a question about do we have something in place that shows how many linear feet total we have in the city? How long we expect that to last, and the crosswalk thermoplastic, how many we have in place, what the expected lifespan of that is, and then the other ones that we'd like to do. That would be helpful for us in budgeting to know if we need to allocate more resources or we're making improvements, but I wonder if we're doing that in a coordinated fashion.
Yeah, thank you for your question. As we were going over this presentation, we tried to be prepared to answer some questions. And this is actually the first time I've seen this map to know that we have over 250 marked crosswalks in the city. So it is a good question. It has been on our tentative work plan to come up with a citywide striping policy and program to know. First, we want to know when and how and where we should have long line striping and marked crosswalks and stop bars and bike lanes. We don't want to just assume that wherever we currently have it, we just want to maintain them. We want to have a consistent policy based off of the classification of the road. So that's one element we would like to tackle, but then also understand what our current assets are in terms of which roads have what type of striping. And if the intent is, if those are necessary stripings, we want to maintain them and ideally come up with a annual cycle, such as do arterials and collectors get refreshed every 2 years and do local roads get refreshed every 4 to 5 years, and then associated costs with that. So we could have a multi-year program and then have costs, because the last several years, this year specifically, we were constrained with the available budget. I think this year we had $100,000 specifically for citywide striping. And so as Ben mentioned, we looked at service requests and school zones as high priority, and we already exceeded that budget. So that's been our constraint to try to get the high priorities locations done. But I agree with you, and I appreciate your feedback that it would be helpful to understand what the striping looks like citywide and what a plan and budget would be to maintain that to certain levels of standard over multiple years. So I think that'll be something we'll be thinking of the next half of this year and possibly into next year.
Thank you. If we could have that available for this upcoming budget cycle so that we can allocate that for the next year's budget and make sure we can be appropriate in our allocations.
Yeah, thank you. We will do that.
Hey, Kim, how would we get that other than a study of that? We've had that in the past with Street Smarts, right?
Yep, Street Logic, I
Street
think,
Logic.
and Street Scan went through and did a survey of all of our signs and our striping at that time.
Mhm.
And I think at that time we hadn't annexed all the way around the lake. So this is kind of a good example. I guess the green dots, we don't see a lot of those in the southeast quadrant of the lake. So we could look at different options, or I know we have some interns that it could either be field work or we'll hire a vendor to go out. And I know that there's services now that just drive the smart cars around and can pick up all the assets and put it into a GIS
Yeah.
format for us to understand.
I just want to tell council, we're gonna give them a refresh look before budget, but I don't know if we're there.
I think we do have some baseline data. It's probably not completely accurate and complete, but it will help us start painting the picture and identify the gaps. And then we could look at other services and costs to make a proposal about what we might need to get the full picture.
Okay.
So kind of looking at this picture that we have up now, I'm going to ask a little dumb question. It looks to me like any of the crosswalks we have at Highway 9204 roundabouts is taken care of by WashDOT. Is that true?
That would be true.
And they're using paint. They're worn out already.
It seems like they probably typically use thermoplastic, but we could double check with them. I think thermoplastic might be the
If they're
standard.
responsible for it, they're going to do it their way anyway, so.
So small tangent, but since Councilmember Daughtry brought up, have we let them know about the crosswalk sign? It looks like it was taken out at one of the roundabouts there on 9.
Yep, they've been notified. We did
Okay.
receive a service request and we reported that to WashDOT.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's like the third time that's been taken out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Anything else for Kim? Ben? Great, good discussion.
I do have a question, Mayor. Mr. AI. So is there a way that we can use AI to assist us with this process here of evaluating that, or is that something, what are your thoughts on that?
Of evaluating the striping
The striping and,
levels.
yes,
Kim has we've been looking at a vendor. What's the vendor's name that takes the driving data?
Yeah, Urban SDK.
Urban
is the-
SDK. They kind of do
AI kind of.
AI-ish data on it. So yeah, there's some options out there. Yeah. Great, let's move forward then. Can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion to pass consent agenda and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, let's move forward then with Kim, and we'll go ahead and open a public hearing for the 2026-2031 6-year transportation improvement program. Kim.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't recall introducing myself yet this evening, so I'm Kim Klinkers. I'm the city engineer here at Lake Stevens. This evening, I am bringing forward our 6-year transportation improvement program. The requested action this evening is to conduct a public hearing on the 6-year TIP. And then we're requesting approval of resolution 2025-07 to adopt the TIP. So this is my first public hearing, but I think the mayor already maybe kicked us off by announcing the subject of the hearing. And has it been opened? Is that what I was hearing? Is the public hearing opened?
It is open.
Awesome, thank you. So then we'll move on to I will do a quick staff report and presentation on this topic, and then we will follow the rest of the outline here for the public hearing. So we got the subject of the hearing, it's opened. Here's my staff report. Okay, so a TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, is a planning document that does not authorize or fund projects. There is no direct financial impact associated with the TIP. Project costs listed are preliminary estimates aligned with the city's existing plans. What is a TIP? Per the RCW, a TIP is a comprehensive 6-year plan that cities and towns must adopt and update annually to outline transportation improvement projects. The TIP requires public hearings before adoption and must be filed with the Secretary of Transportation to secure state and federal funding for transportation projects. The TIP must incorporate bicycle and pedestrian facilities. So why is it needed? The TIP ensures cities and towns have a perpetual 6-year transportation plan to guide infrastructure improvements and coordinate transportation projects. It helps jurisdictions secure state and federal funding for transportation projects and ensures compliance with Washington state transportation planning requirements. And it requires public hearings before adoption to ensure cities plan for non-motorized transportation, promoting regional transportation connectivity. So in your staff report, attached to the resolution is Appendix A that shows the 6-year tip that I have here. I have broken it up into 2 slides if we need to look at it more closely. But this is what we looked at last week at the council meeting for discussion. I just hid the 2025 column and it's in your packet. And I guess I have 1 or 2 more slides here just for the staff presentation that the 6-year tip and all the projects listed here are consistent with documents that's already been seen and adopted by council, such as the city's comprehensive plan, our 6-year capital improvement plan that's within the comprehensive plan, in addition to our 20-year capital facilities plan, and the TBP, or the Transportation Benefit Program Implementation Plan, and then our 2025 city budget. So this is the next slide, but yeah, as you can see as an example here, with half of the tip slide showing, we have the project numbers, and we added a column to indicate where these particular capital projects can be sourced in our CFP, our TBP, and the CIP, for example. So that's what I have for this evening. I think at this point, I'm happy to open it up for council's questions.
Kim, you said we're going to see a menu, I guess, of improvements to 117th that you're going to bring forward in July 15th meeting. But yet we have $1.2 million allocated here for 2026. How do you connect those 2 dots when we don't know what we're doing yet?
Yes, that's a good question. So the $1.2 million that's shown it's not currently budgeted because we haven't gone through the 26 budget process yet, but it is consistent with our 6-year capital improvement plan that we updated at the end of last year. We do have rough cost estimates. So the improvements that were constructed on 91st Avenue for the 2 segments of the TBP project that were constructed, we used those unit prices and that kind of design where it's the concrete curb and gutter and then a planter strip and then an asphalt path. We use those unit prices as after they were constructed to come up with rough cost estimates for all of our TBP projects and added inflation rates based off of the years that they were pushed out. So the 1.2 is a placeholder that shows that we're targeting construction, and that's a rough cost estimate based off of the information we have now, which I agree with you. We don't have a preferred design. I don't know if that makes, but it's consistent with our capital plan, and it just shows that we are still committed to trying to move through the design this year with the intent to try to get it built next year. And as we go through the 2026 budget process, we'll have a better understanding of what our projected construction costs will be into next year. And that would be updated with the 2026 budget. And then we'll, in addition with that process, be updating our 6-year CIP, and we can come back and update the tip to be consistent with that document at that time.
So assuming that number turns about to be larger than 1.2 million, which my guess is it probably will be. 20th Street Southeast corridor improvements, you got $3 million being spent there for the next 2 years and $11 million in 28. Where are we going to get $11 million?
Yeah, that's a great question. So last year, we applied for a TIB grant. Actually, the city of Everett reached out and said they had some consultant dollars available, and they were interested in trying to help us advance the 20th Street widening that ties into the trestle because it is a pinch point for all of the trestle and their connection on the west side. So we applied for a TIB grant. We weren't successful last year, but these were just placeholders that showed we needed to show that we were pursuing grant funds. They weren't budgeted. They were contingent upon potentially receiving that grant award. But we are actually meeting with TIB tomorrow to talk about some upcoming projects that we might want to apply for this funding cycle. And so, yeah, these dollars will be pushed out as we potentially phase the project into 2 different phases. I think that was the feedback we received from TIB to maybe be more successful with our grant applications. That will be reflected in our updated 6-year CIP as we move through that this fall. Right now, the numbers that are shown here are consistent with the CIP that we worked through last fall and through that budget process, and that's included in our current comp plan.
So that project is widening from the trestle up to 83rd.
Yeah, I understand what it is.
And that's the money they've asked us to put in the CIPs to ask for. If that makes sense.
We have to put it in there before they'll consider allocating resources for that.
Any reason we stopped at 83rd?
What's that?
Why did we stop at 83rd? I just out of curiosity. 'Cause now that
It goes into 4 lanes after that, or 5 lanes.
okay, but I mean, if we're gonna, I guess, have we taken into account then like Costco and all that stuff, and we have sufficient capacity once we widen that? just want to make sure it's not like, oh, I wish. we
Yeah, so
could've-
right now your bottleneck is 83rd west on the eastbound lanes is not 4 lane, is not 5 lanes.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is I just want to make sure that we're not going to get done with this and then, 5 years after that being like, oh, we should have done something more going all the way to 9 or something like that. But I understand what you're saying about the lanes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think asking for more lanes down 20th. You're,
Not even necessarily more lanes, but just making sure that we're happy with that. So.
So Kim, I do have a question. It may be a little rhetorical. So we have the US 2 trestle replacement and the city is not contributing any money towards that project. So what it's blank. So why do we have that listed if we have $0 allocated?
Yeah, good question. It is in our capital facilities plan with a project number associated with it. And I've heard council talk about it being a priority project and an impact for our area. I thought that it made sense to put it in our TIP because it is a regionally significant transportation improvement project that impacts us. And I thought it didn't hurt. It shows that it's important to us and we can send it to WashDOT and let them know that it's on our radar as well. But I added it specifically because it's in our capital facilities plan.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's also significant at PSRC Transportation Policy Board and PSRC Executive Board, because if we are one of the 3 or 4 different organizations that have it in their plan, then it gets more
Attention.
more attention. So WashDOT requested it. The way I understand it, they requested us put this in our TIP, and then also PSRC Transportation Policy Board has already seen this and verified that, yeah, this is important.
Thank you.
It's much like we added that 92 in Grade Road.
That's what I was just going to ask
It's
about.
letting WASDOT know, hey, this is something that we need to get prioritized, although it's not our project. Doesn't mean we won't work it if we can, but it lets WASDOT know, hey, like we need to fix that one.
And there is money allocated to that one though, correct? I think I saw that on the chart. It's just pushed out over 6 years.
I think it's just,
I plugged in money. Yeah. Just the $4.5 million, I think is the rough cost that is shown in the capital facilities plan, because it is an identified.
And I know for
Project.
years, many years, actually, it's been discussed making that the main gateway to Lake Stevens versus bringing people up Lending Parkway, and you've
Yep.
got this skinny little windy road, bringing people up. But it's pushed out at least 6 years then. Is that correct?
at least, it's not on WASDOT.
Yeah.
Well, it's WASDOT's project, but it's not on their radar, but putting it on our CIP, we can start going to WASDOT and say, hey, like, this is a priority. You guys didn't get this going.
I guess I got a couple more comments. So to Councilmember Peter Shagan's point about the project. So my basic math, shows that project based on the length of 117th and the $500 roughly per linear foot, that estimate that's on there would roughly fit. I don't know what, like I said, they don't have a priority designed for that, but if we were to use that and extrapolate that, that would be a reasonable figure for that. But one thing I know for me, I'm interested in, I appreciate this project. It's awesome to see all these things on the spreadsheet is, and this isn't the place for the conversation, but leveraging and bonding, our TBD money to make sure we can get these projects done more quickly. Instead of waiting and doing piecemeal over the time and just going for that. So if we could have that conversation at a later time and see if there's appetite for the council to expedite that with a bonding capacity, I'd be interested in that.
So that's an interesting comment because one of the discussions we had at the PSRC Transportation Policy Board last month was TPVs, and there is a lot of cities that didn't understand that they could bond that money. I was surprised at how many people, what do you mean we can bond that money? It's like, you guys have had the TBD more than we have, or longer than we have, and you don't know you can do this. I don't understand how you not know that. And the other one that they were talking about on the TBD is that we did it with the tax on, sales tax. They've been doing it with the other method, and I can't remember what, the property tax. And what the PSRC Transportation Policy Board, the staff are saying is that the preferred method is property tax. And I'm looking at them like, what are you talking about? How is that preferred over the sales tax? Because then the whole burden is over the people who live here instead of anybody buying gas that's coming through. And they, I have a couple of guys that were, they do the messaging on there when you're doing it, says, yeah, that's the way I thought it worked. It's really, the TBD is just kind of a strange thing for every entity that's using it is using it differently. And I don't understand. I think we're doing it the right way.
So bonding of that money is interesting. I get the idea that you bond it, you do a bunch of the projects up front at what is presumably a cheaper cost because you're doing it in today's money without inflation over the next 6, 7, 8 years, right? But one of the things, the opportunities missed, and for example, next year when we should be doing 91st, the rest of 91st from the middle school down to 20th. So if you did all those projects, you would miss out on I think it's 800,000 that we're getting Safe Routes to School money to go towards that project, right? So you'd shoot everything in the beginning of your 10-year TBD process, and you wouldn't be able to benefit in grabbing those grant monies along the way that would maybe make your money go further.
Those grant monies are not assured, though.
You're right. You're right.
So in the meantime, the citizens suffer.
Yeah.
So obviously we've got to be smart about this, but at the same time, there's opportunities that we can move forward with some projects that make a difference. And again, we just heard grant money is not guaranteed. So
yeah, and I agree that grant money is not guaranteed, but it has been consistent and over the years. So and I'm just throwing out those thought processes. I'm not saying I'm for or against bonding. I'm just saying that's something we need to think about when we start talking about bonding everything up front. Our dollars may not go as far as we think they go.
I don't, to Councilmember Ewing's point, I don't think we're talking about bonding everything. We're talking about some specific projects that make a difference. And for safety reasons and speeding is obviously a huge issue in our community, and targeting some dollars to get some things done rather than just putting on a planning board that says we're going to rely on some grants 3 or 4 years from now. So, yeah.
My recollection when the TBD was first passed around the pacing also was just capacity. Like it seemed at that point, and I know that we keep growing, but it seems like we only have a certain number of people and to try to put too many projects in line at once then stretches our staff really thin, and we're contracting out maybe work that if we did it in-house, we could do better and cheaper if we put it out a year or two. So I'm assuming that's still, even though our team's grown a little bit, I'm assuming that's still something we need to consider.
Yeah, I think that's obviously a factor as well.
I guess I appreciate the discussion here, but one other thing from AWC. So other than COVID and the Great Recession 2008, 2025, Washington has fewer jobs, and it's the only time in a non-worldwide event that we've had fewer jobs. And so the effect of $16 billion in new tax that our legislature imposed on us starting today is having an effect on people. And so I think, to the point that, hey, that money is not guaranteed and getting that grant money, I think if there's a way for us to be thoughtful and strategic and getting those grants, I agree with the mayor that we should get those grants, but also with Councilmember Peterson, we need to be able to make sure that we can move forward if we can bond to accelerate those projects, if that's the prudent thing to do.
Yeah, I would suggest we have this discussion another time.
Yes.
On the CIP, Kim was probably not prepared for that discussion, so let's
No.
keep on the public hearing topic. Anything else for Kim? All right, so with that, I will open up the floor then to comments on our 6-year CIP. These comments should only be on the 6-year CIP and no other subject. Do we have anybody in the audience who wishes to provide comments on the 6-year CIP? Is there anybody online?
Nope, there's nobody online.
Nobody on.
I'm sorry, there's one citizen. I will say, if you want to speak, you can raise your digital hand for the public hearing. No.
Nothing. Okay. So with that, I'll close comments on this public hearing. And Kim, any additional thoughts from staff?
I have nothing additional to add
Okay.
this time. Thank
And
you.
so you're asking tonight for,
It's right up on the screen too, but it's in the staff report. If asking council to consider requesting approval of resolution 2025-07 to adopt the 6-year transportation improvement program, please.
so I just want to make sure that we can do this with just one public hearing. We don't need two.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll move to approve resolution 2025-07, adopting the 2026 to 2031 6-year transportation improvement program.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the 6-year transportation improvement program, and I have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, great work from your staff. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So with that, we'll go to the next item on the agenda, 'cause it's how what we do, and we'll go to the traffic cameras. Director Halverson.
I am presenting my screen and Aaron should be, Director Halverson should be online.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Mayor. So I'm pleased to be here tonight to talk with you again about the traffic safety camera program, Mayor and Council. For those of you in the audience, I don't know if there is anyone, but my name is Aaron Halverson. I'm the Public Works Director. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Kim. We're going to cover four topics. The purpose of this is to brief council on the background, summary of the ordinance, process next steps, and to hold a public hearing on the topic. Go ahead. Okay, here's sort of a timeline that we have for discussing the traffic safety program with the council. We've been talking about it for several months now. So in September, we brought it to the council as a retreat item and discussed it with Kim leading that discussion. She gave a great presentation. In March, we talked about, brought you a draft ordinance that had been reviewed by our legal counsel and discussed next steps. We again brought it to the council on April 24th, and that's where this photo is from. We talked about the process for consideration and potential adoption. On May 20th, we brought the ordinance again and talked about next steps, and the council gave us a direction to bring this back as a public hearing, and that's why we're here today on July 1st for the public hearing. Go ahead, Kim. So I have just a few slides, and you've seen these before. So speeding is the new normal on US roads. And during COVID, we saw actually speeds went up. And that was from a lack of traffic congestion and just the availability of open space on the roads. Concurrent with that, we've seen police staffing shortages. So the enforcement part of this effort to reduce speeding has seen staff shortages. And I think the chief would support that. Speed cameras have been shown to effectively reduce speeds and crashes in many jurisdictions across the state and country. And then most recently, Washington adopted a new law that expanded the use of traffic speed cameras. They had previously been allowed under certain circumstances, but the new law really opened it up a bit more. So 4 key areas where they're allowed: school zones, hospital zones, public parks, and roadway work zones. Go ahead, Kim. Great. So this chart helps you understand that as speeds increase, 30 miles an hour can feel like you're not traveling that fast. But if a 30-mile-an-hour vehicle collides with a pedestrian, about half the time that pedestrian dies. It's a fatal injury.
Aaron?
20 miles an hour, it's 1 out of 10. And at 40 miles an hour, it's 1 out of 10 survive. So 9 out of 10 pedestrians survive at 20 miles an hour, 5 out of 10 at 30, and 1 out of 10 at 40. So it really makes a big difference.
Hey, Aaron, would you make sure you're hitting your mic directly for us, please?
Yes, I can. Why don't I speak louder?
That'd be perfect.
Is that better? Okay. Okay, great. Let's go to the next slide, Kim.
But this information is inaccurate. It's 20 miles an hour, 9 out of 10.
Feel free to interrupt me with questions at any time. That's no problem.
Director Elvis, I just want to point out in the staff report, there's incorrect information. It says at 25 miles an hour, 9 out of 10, the actual number is 20.
Okay.
So I just want to note that for anyone who's looking at that, that the number is incorrect in the packet.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Ewing. Appreciate that. Municipalities with automated enforcement cameras in the area, and this is just a sampling. There are more, but we listed some here. So Fife, DuPont, Tukwila, Tacoma, Milton, Everett. I know Lake Forest Park has traffic safety cameras, so it's becoming somewhat common on roadways. And the reason really is it does improve safety and reduce speeds. Go ahead and quite frankly, it does provide funding for projects that make our roads safer as well. Okay, so to summarize the ordinance for Lake Stevens, it's a very standard ordinance. It's based on state law. It designates potential camera use zones to speed school zones and walk zones, public park and hospital zones, roadway work zones, high-risk crash areas, and stoplight violations on state highways classified as city streets. Go ahead into the next slide. Here we are in terms of process. So the next thing to do is for the council to consider passage of the ordinance. What that enables the administrator, the city to do is to begin to work on equity and crash analysis that's required by state law. So we've done some analysis across the city and primarily park locations to see, determine how many speed violations are occurring and what might happen should traffic safety cameras be placed there. We still have to do that analysis. It's a requirement of the RCW following adoption of the ordinance. Prior to activating any traffic safety cameras, signage must be put up to warn travelers in that area that traffic safety cameras will begin enforcement. Any photos collected may not show the driver or passengers. The city must provide annual reports, and the revenue is restricted to traffic safety improvement and program costs. And one of the things we've talked about in terms of program costs is the actual review by law enforcement of the infractions and any administration of those infractions in terms of court costs, and then traffic safety improvements. So potentially engineering services and design and construction of projects that would make the roadways more safe and hopefully reduce the need for traffic safety cameras. And after 4 years, for what it's worth, and it is worth something, 25% of the fines must go to the state's Cooper Jones Fund. Go ahead, Pam. Okay. In the event that someone received, based on this ordinance, should someone receive a violation, it's mailed to the vehicle owner within 14 days. Again, there's no image of the driver. It's a $145 base fine and higher for school zone or repeat major offenses. So in the event that the infraction, the vehicle's traveling 10 miles per hour over the speed limit, the fine increases, or if they're repeat repeat travelers who are speeding in that area, the fines can increase as well. And then there's the ability for reduced fines for low-income residents, should that be a need. The effective date of the ordinance would be 5 days after publication. The public hearing is optional. Council is going to have one today. And then should the council adopt the ordinance, the council would also approve the placement and essentially the operations of those speed enforcement cameras prior to, I suppose, implementing the program. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay. Believe this is the last slide. So the next steps is to hold a public hearing. Council should consider the ordinance or revisions to the ordinance. If the council chooses, they would adopt the ordinance. The city would study the locations, likely execute a contract with a vendor to install and maintain those signs, those traffic safety cameras, and clearly we would report to council with frequency. So at this point, I'll open it to questions to the council. Go ahead.
Can you go ahead and open the public hearing? Let me go ahead and open the public hearing then for this section on traffic cameras. There are a couple clerical errors I'm seeing in here that we need to fix.
Okay.
Especially in 7.06.010A. We're missing a couple things there. And then one thing to remember about this ordinance is this ordinance creates the framework to move forward with the program. By passing this ordinance, it doesn't give carte blanche power to staff to start throwing these cameras out there. And just for social media sake, there are no cameras right now in the city of Lake Stevens. We are not doing this program right now. But this does create the framework to be able to do so. And then, so then any of the locations, if you look in 7.06.010B, any location that you put a speed camera has to have specific analysis done as dictated by the state. And then those locations are approved by the council. So this ordinance doesn't mean cameras show up tomorrow and they're in place. It just creates the process for approving them. So with that, any questions for Aaron?
Just, you had mentioned that there might be some things that need to be changed. I'm reading on that same section, 706.010, section B. It says the city council is required to prepare an analysis of the locations. Does the city prepare the analysis and present that to us, or do we?
I will allow the staff to do it for you.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure, I want to know we're getting ourselves into here.
Unless you would like to do it.
I would like to allocate that to just Angie. Can we add that to her responsibilities?
I mean, Gary and Steve already have experience counting cars, so.
There you go. There you go.
I know you enjoyed providing an analysis of things.
I mean, we do what we have to do. Thank you.
I had a question that wasn't addressed that has been asked of me and I didn't have an answer. What happens if somebody else is driving your car? The cameras here don't take a picture of the face, anything like that. And I know someone who actually got a citation in Washington State, and it was actually their daughter driving the car. So they turned it in and just said, it wasn't me driving. So what happens in that instance, or if someone just simply fails to pay it?
So there's a traffic court aligned with this, and anyone can go to that court and contest those citations.
So I was going to make a comment to that too, because looking at .020 sections D specifically addresses the who's responsible. And as I read it, the default responsibility falls to the owner of the vehicle, and then it's up to them to go to court and say, hey, here's why it wasn't me. Here's who you really want. And then also E talks about, so photo, just to be clear, and keeping this above board, my reading is photos are taken. What's limited is their use. So they can only be used to enforce this ordinance, or they can only be used in a court proceeding related to the specific ordinance. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that, so someone doesn't come back and say, you said no photos. It's the use is limited.
Are they photos of the license or photos of the driver?
So, I mean, in here, it just said, let me find
Not
it.
be able to-
Okay, that's what I thought.
The other thing is they can't be asked for in public records requests.
So I guess for me, I don't have a question. I have more of a comment. There was another typo in here, just a spelling error. So I don't know if it's been through spell check, but appreciate if we did that. Probably the single biggest complaint that I hear is traffic, speed of traffic. And so I appreciate the city staff and council making the effort to address that in a responsible way. And so, I'm supportive of moving this forward and making good use of our limited resources so that our public safety folks can focus on property crimes and crimes against people.
Do we have any questions? Good comments? Any comments for Aaron?
I have a question that Aaron might be able to answer. It could be PD. So of the 8 or 9 cities that were listed there and the others, I don't remember seeing Linwood on there. What percentage or a sense of a percentage of tickets issued versus exactly what Kim brought up? Wasn't me driving, check the box, here you go, which almost could make this pointless if people do that. So I'm just curious if there's a sense of how many tickets that are issued and in those comparable cities and people who actually pay it, rather than just saying, not me.
There's some numbers out there, Kurt. I don't have them in front of me though, but we can absolutely get them to you. I know, do you have any with you, Kim?
I don't have any numbers, but I have reviewed numbers in the past. So why don't we go ahead and bring those back to the future council meeting when we bring this ordinance before the council for consideration.
Yeah, I don't need an exact number. I'm just curious. Yeah, it's substantial or it's, you get a handful here and there. That's kind of, just what I was.
I know the companies who do this, one of their first year planning factors is a 70% reduction in speeders.
Mhm.
Right?
That's our goal, right?
That's our goal, is to stop speeding. And in their business plan planning factors, they just consider 70% of citations of the first year are gone the second year because of curbing behavior.
And I read an article on Everett doing this in their school zones, and it made a significant impact.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember the data, like the numbers, but they did a warning program first before they actually did the citations, and a significant impact on reduced speeds in school zones.
Yeah, and that is one thing that's inside, I can't remember which paragraph it is, but there are signs before you enter that zone saying you're coming in the zone. You should probably slow down.
Yeah, they're required.
These are not surprise zones.
I do have one last question. Director Halverson, during citizen comment, there was someone had brought up the idea of using traffic calming devices around school zones instead of looking at traffic cameras. Don't need this information now, but it would be super helpful just to hear from you what that would look like if we were to put speed humps in every school zone in the city of Lake Stevens. How much would that cost, and how many hours, how much labor would that be from our staff? Would just love to have those figures to be able to compare.
Okay, we'll go ahead and bring those back.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Horsted, yeah.
Anything else for Aaron?
Yeah, I do want to clarify what I said earlier. So I see the section you're talking about where it says that, let's see, may not reveal the face of the driver. So at some level, I think it's going to be there, but then it is obscured and passed on and only used for the purposes of that enforcement or a related hearing.
Yeah, and it also does in 7.06.030, the prima facie presumption, the presumption that the person that owns the car is the one that is getting the citation. They are getting that citation, but there is a procedure for them to fight that. But they have to go to court to do it, and they have to basically say under oath that I wasn't driving the car. So there's a presumption may be overcome, only if the registered owner under oath states the written statement to the court that he wasn't there. So there's a process they can go through to do it.
Okay, I'm going to open, this is a public hearing, so I'm gonna open the floor to public comments. Do we have any public comments on just this subject? Anybody online?
I do not see anybody online. I do want to make comment to Carol Kotzik's written comments that I've scanned in to all of you tonight.
Thank you.
Other than that, I see one person again online. If you'd like to speak regarding the traffic camera public hearing, please raise your digital hand.
No. How about in person? Anybody in person? Go ahead, sir. Yeah, go ahead and hit the pulp for us and take 3 minutes and just, if you just stick to this topic for us, please.
Exactly the topics where I came.
Great.
So John Claybrook, we live over on Vernon Road by the Vernon Lundin roundabout. And it's literally like a racetrack there every day. You guys know it. You live here, you drive through there. And cars will come out of that roundabout heading towards Frontier Village doing 50, 60, and we're the fourth house from the roundabout. They're slamming it out of there, especially when the kids are coming from high school. Same thing coming the other way. It's a shortcut from Frontier Village to Highway 92 over here, right past our house, past Norm's Market. Cars just fly through there. I appreciate your efforts to substantially slow down people here. I've been passed on Lakeshore many times. I have a business over here, come back and forth. People drive like crazy. I talked to you at the Aquafest last year and you mentioned you don't have the staff to support it for the police. So I'm all for this kind of stuff. I know you had some comments about the not really being effective, but if it could be 70% effective, that would be a huge thing in this area right now. The legality of it's been challenged many places. The people say it wasn't me, it was somebody else, somebody this and that, but it's a step in the right direction. And I don't know of other things we could do. Speed bumps, great, but all that would do is slow them down, speed them up again, going up that road. Same thing coming the other way. They come down the hill from Frontier Village. It's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit till it gets right in front of our house. And easily 40, 50 coming into that speed roundabout regularly. And another question, why is the speed limit on Vernon Road there and on Davies Road 30 everywhere else?
Because we haven't changed it yet, but it's gonna happen.
On the cameras, yeah. Okay, you got me there. So, but still, that was just a question I had on that. But all in favor of the cameras on our behalf, whether it helps speed us down, slow it down, save some lives, all of that kind of stuff. But where we're at is not in one of the approved zones. So is there thoughts on how that's going to be approached? Is where my question really goes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, we can talk, we won't answer the question, but I'll answer the question for you.
All right.
Is there anybody else in who wants to give comments?
Is it on the cameras or is it on cameras?
Yeah, anything additional? Okay.
Okay.
We'll talk about what you're talking about,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't know.
My comment is on the speed cameras that, yes, my name is Carol Kotzik and I'm a Lake Shore resident. My concern with the speed cameras is you have a third-party vendor and they're going to be monitoring the cameras and calibrating them and making sure that the solar panels are working properly. But there's a margin for problems with that. Who's going to monitor them and who's going to make sure they're doing their job? We've got cameras now that supposedly were supposed to help with speed, but you drive down the road and it just flashes. It doesn't even show a speed. They're not as the fix-all that we're looking for. I mean, I understand that in certain areas, maybe they help, but I think we need a more complex plan than just focusing on cameras. I think that's the new trend, but there's also other things that can be done, you know, improving walking areas and the traffic humps. I've studied at Monroe, several of the jurisdictions that I put in my letter there. I think that we just have to look for more options than the cameras. They're expensive, number one. I don't know who's going to pay for the cameras. Is it the city that pays for them or do you rent them from the vendors? I don't know, but I know to install one of those, it's a minimum of 70 grand. With the post and all of the information and the camera that's actually involved in there.
Right.
And if there's, freezing or other things, they're not gonna work like they should. It's just, I understand that you guys are trying to make Lake Stevens a safer place, and I'm in favor of that. I would do anything to make it a better place, but I just don't want people to think that this is going to be a fix-all, end-all Band-Aid and everything's going to be safe after this, because sure, the little areas that we're going to put them in are the school zones, I don't want anybody to get hurt, but there's other options that we should address. And I think that would be a good idea to look at some of the ideas that I put in my comments.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Carol.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else for comments on this subject? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the citizens' comments portion of this. And anything else from Aaron or Kim? Aaron? Nothing. So a couple, just to address a couple of things. The areas that the code is, the Washington State code is very descriptive on where you can put the cameras. One of the things you can do if a justification analysis, if an analysis justifies it, you can put them in locations outside that area, those dictated areas, but that's kind of, you just gotta justify it, right? So that could be done. As far as the cost of the cameras and how that works, and I agree, like speed cameras are not the end all for our speeding issues, but it's a force multiplier, right? Like right now, we don't have police officers enough to be running. I would love to have our 2 traffic officers on their motorcycles doing traffic every day, and you didn't know where they were the day. I would love to have that, but we don't have that. So with that, we look at these speed cameras and the idea that Lake Stevens has them as a force multiplier for our citizens to know, hey, in these areas, you might get a ticket. We don't have any cameras up right now. We have speed signs that say how fast you're going, but there's no cameras with those. There's no consequences other than they get the opportunity to let someone know they're going faster than they should be most oftentimes. So there's no consequences for those. So with speed cameras, you would have consequences. And you're right, it's not the only thing we could be doing, but it's a force multiplier that can be added on with other force multipliers, whether that's speed humps or traffic quieting roads. The thought process is revenue from this program would go towards building those kinds of ideas, right? Do we use some of that money to traffic quiet areas to slow people down so we don't have to have the cameras? Ultimately, we don't want to have the cameras. So those are just some ideas behind the cameras. Again, we don't have any up right now. And it's just seen as, for myself, as a force multiplier for our traffic safety. What other comments do we have on this? I'm going to keep the public hearing open until we get a revision back of this ordinance to actually pass. So we can table discussion on the public hearing, or we can have some more discussion if you wish.
I was just going to say, one of the questions poses who's going to pay for it? Is the city going to pay for it? And it's my understanding that people violating the speed limits are going to pay for it.
Correct. It's a contract with whatever company is chosen, and then we enforce the contract and the scope of the contract.
So I just want to add, so for the second year in a row, I've been able to talk to the vendor or a vendor for speed cameras and talk to other people from other cities that are using it. And I didn't hear any negative feedback from any of the cities that I talked to, including last week regarding it. In fact, there was very positive feedback from that, independent of, any other discussion. I say, hey, we're considering this. What are your thoughts? And so I'm supportive, like the gentleman that spoke here, as far as any measure we can take to improve, as the mayor said, force multiplier. I want to keep people going slower and use the tools that we have available to us.
Agreed. Anything else real quick? I want to keep us on our 8 o'clock time frame.
I would move that we table the public hearing until we have a revised and updated ordinance and notes.
So a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to table the public hearing on this and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, perfect. Let's go to discussion item, council subcommittees.
Okay, so this is essentially a follow-up to the discussion we began during our last retreat. Particularly the topic there kicked off with a budget subcommittee, and looking at that, I know there were comments asking about additional subcommittees, but I want to kind of go ahead and start with the budget subcommittee and the idea of that as a mechanism for us, just kind of, I don't even know what the right word would be, just, being able to, it's a tool to dive deeper into our budget and make sure we kind of have time if we need it to really get into some of the weeds on that maybe we don't want to wade through during open council. So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up if anyone has any particular thoughts they want to start with, or I can just go down the line. Okay.
Just to give a little update to Kurt. So when you were last on the council, we had subcommittees for public safety and budget. Shortly after you left, we went away from that. And the thought process was we were having these subcommittee meetings where we have 3 people in the room, and then we go to a council meeting and we have to rehash everything, right? So what we do now is a workshop on a off council Tuesday, and that's where all the information is given. And then you can go into the next Tuesday informed and know what's going on. So we did away with the subcommittee, but we're having that discussion. Is there value in going back to that? Okay.
I would say yes. There's been a couple instances recently where I've had some questions, and one of them was the dock repair at Sunset Beach. I didn't feel we had enough information or enough time when it comes to putting that out for bid and the amount of money that was spent. I think there would have been some value to having someone that had a little more in-depth, so that I'm not wasting everyone's time asking questions, as I feel like I'm kind of peeling an onion. And so I do think there's some value in that. And just recently I sent a letter regarding the Discover Pass and how we sold passes that were good for 12 months. And then if you had bought it in October or November, it was good for 30 to 60 days. And when that was brought to council in October, I had originally questions, well, wait a minute, we don't take Discover Pass. And I felt silly. I felt like kind of like an idiot, because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what I've been using for my pass there. Because I just bought one. Mine's good till September 2025. And so I feel like an idiot. So I didn't go any further into it because it's a public forum. And I'm like, well, geez, I need to kind of look into this. Looked into it. And sure enough, we were accepting them. I did buy a pass intending to use it for a full year. And my pass was good for 3 months. So I think if we had just a little more in depth, so we weren't having to think on our feet quite so much at a time restraint, like even tonight, it was mentioned we are scheduled to be out of here at 8 o'clock. So we feel this crunch for time as we're crunching numbers. Now, I don't know if any of our council members have the time to serve on a subcommittee that have the talent for doing this, but I do think it's a valid idea.
So the question I have for you, Kim, is in the 2 examples you gave us, what committee would have alleviated that problem?
I think the cost analysis for $50,000 to look at that dock definitely probably would have been reviewed. That's, I know in the large scope of a multi-million-dollar budget.
Are we talking about it in the budget subcommittee? Because the subcommittee only meets when we're doing budget.
So the annual budget. So anything.
So that wouldn't have been, that particular issue would not have been done by any committee that we used to have. None.
Oh,
It would have been done exactly the way the staff always does it, when they bring things to the council that's not, that comes up.
Okay.
One thing that I just, in my own mind, I agree that, probably a good starting point would be during budget, but I don't necessarily want to confine it to that. If we go forward and we determine, this is a useful enough tool. We have the time and all that, and we want to do regular meetings to stay on top of the budget throughout the year. And again, we say budget and we think of, kind of what we do in the fall, but I mean, this could be a group that discusses, insurance policies, city investments. I mean, there are other things we could do. I think it really comes down to our appetite and our time, and then also considering the staff and not overburdening them. So that's kind of how I'm thinking of it.
And I understand that, but being one of the people that were on those committees, Kurt, myself, and well, I don't know, you weren't there for those, were you? So that would have been Kurt, myself, and Marcus, who's not with us anymore. But so what we found was, and this is my main sticking point on this, let's just talk about the budget committee, because other committees worked a little bit different, but the budget committee was more important to the entire council. And we would do our due diligence in the budget committee, several weeks of work. And then we try to bring that back to council and say, this is what we've discussed and this is what we decided at the budget committee. And that's all just blown up by the other 4 members on the council, because now I want to know more specifics, et cetera, that we have already gone through. And yeah, you want to know it, you're going to find out. That's what we need to do. So really it became why are we doing this when we're all going to ask the same questions in council?
And I completely agree. If it ends up just being redundant like it was before, then it defeats the purpose. There would have to be a level of, I guess, trust, in the members of the subcommittee. They're doing the research, they're spending the time, they're providing a recommendation to the council at large. And yeah, if that's just being ignored and people are going off and doing their own thing and digging into stuff that's already been hashed, then yeah, it serves no purpose. So that's part of the discussion, are the people on this council okay with taking that input from a smaller subgroup and going with that? The alternative, if we all want to get into budget, I know one of the alternatives that was proposed was just workshops and spending more time as a whole council. If the entire council wants to do that and spend that time, I'm all for that too. I guess my concern is just, then you're asking all of us to spend the time. And I look at how hard it's been coordinating schedules just to have the discussion about the subcommittee. So my concern is going forward, are we going to reliably be able to block off extra time to discuss the budget as an entire council?
I think before, if I can opine, we probably had way too many subcommittees because there's a subcommittee for everything. I mean, we're all on 2 or 3 subcommittees. We were on 2 or 3 liaisons. We had our own interests that we were representing in the city, and it just became unmanageable. You're right, Kim. We would have 2 or 3 people who are really knowledgeable and subject matter experts on the council for whatever that topic was. And then I wouldn't say it got blown up, but there usually was a lot of discussion, a lot of the repetitive questions. I think that's okay that happens. The value in it, as I'm thinking out loud, which is dangerous, is that you had 2 or 3 people, or even 1 person maybe, who really could support the staff or the mayor and say, no, that's wrong. And then re-explain it in the way that the council thinks. I'm not going to go into examples, but I see that as a benefit of that. I'm not necessarily advocating to bring that back, but I think it's important to remember the good part of it as well as we really were busy.
Kim or Angie?
I'll weigh in. I haven't been a part of a council that's had subcommittees in this fashion. My worry and my sense is that there would be redundancy, that if I weren't on the budget committee, I would want to know all the things and I would want to ask all the questions. And then it feels like it would be double duty. Having said that, I don't feel strongly opposed to it either. I'm certainly willing to, kind of give it a try and see, but I think that's my reservation.
I would suggest that if and I get it, right? And we're mostly talking about the budget, right? Because that's the hard thing to crack that nut. And I get that, especially with new council members. It's really difficult. So I would suggest that if we need to go longer during workshops to make sure that you're comfortable and everyone's comfortable, especially during the budget session, like I'm okay with that. I would much rather have staff spend 30 extra minutes on a Tuesday, then come in and do a 2-hour meeting outside of that, if that makes sense. Because I've got to guard my staff's time. And by adding subcommittees, it really sucks up their time. They got to prep, they've got to do the meeting, they've got to do questions after the meeting. And I would much rather us get laser focused, for one, on our workshops and get real good, valuable time out of those so that we feel comfortable, so that you guys feel comfortable making the decisions. And if we have to go longer, I'd much rather do that than do the subcommittee thing. And again, and I would offer up the staff as well, that if even after you don't feel comfortable after a workshop, come in and sit down with Barb, come in and sit down with Kelly, come in and sit down, whoever you need to feel comfortable with, so that when you guys make the decision in the next council meeting, that you're comfortable with it. I would much rather have it run that way than increase the amount of time our staff has to deal with subcommittees.
So I guess my only concern with what you just said is, are they going to be available after business hours? Because that's when a lot of us are free to meet. So I don't know how often I could come in and sit down with Barb while she's in her office.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't know if that'd be an option.
I think we could figure that out if that needed to happen.
Well, I think one of the things about your option of doing a workshop is if we're going to budget workshop, and that's it. That's all it's talking about that night, it's budget.
Well, but you know, currently the budget process is right now the staff's getting their stuff together. They're going to show that to me. We will have our 1-day retreat, and that's a budget retreat where you guys get everything in a look. And then at that point, we're into the budget workshops and negotiations, right? But for us, the way it's been done the last couple of years with that retreat, we come out of that retreat with a good 90% thought process and solution on where we're at. So if there's deep dive questions, it should be at that retreat or in those workshops after the retreat as we're just sewing up the budget. So I don't think we need anything specific. Well, I mean, we could do it after the retreat, a specific, workshop towards budgets on one of the Tuesdays.
Go ahead.
So I got a few thoughts. So let's put things in perspective. There's 281 cities in the state of Washington. There are 7 that have our bond rating. What does that mean? For 3 years, we've had demonstrated extraordinary fiscal responsibility that allowed us to minimize the cost of taxpayers. What does that mean? Our staff, Barb, mayor, city council, we're doing a great job working together. And Barb's has always been available for me to come in and talk to her. And granted, it's been during business hours. So I appreciate that. And that is one of our most significant responsibilities, council members, to make sure we're doing that. Our last subcommittee was underwhelming. The short-term rental subcommittee, did not do what it should have done. And it was underwhelming, and I was part of that. And so I would hate to see something like a budget committee that functions like the short-term rental committee, because I just don't think it served its intended purpose. And what I didn't like about subcommittees are things agreed upon to go to council meeting, and then literally the opposite thing happened.
I would say everything was undone in the short term.
Yeah. And so it's just like,
Everything that
even
was on
people on
that
the committee say,
subcommittee
hey, okay,
citizen,
we're going to present this
everything
forward. And then
decided
it
was
was
undone.
complete opposite. So it was like, what happened in the, so I do want to be informed. I want to be as educated as I can be. But I think for me, if we start with enhanced workshops that are, like Brett said, laser focused on that, and we find that is inadequate and that we aren't able to, that's not meeting our needs and our expectations, then we can, review the subcommittee at that point. But I think where we are now, we can take a next step and do that, a little longer workshops, and then go from there.
I would like to clarify, I in no way, when I'm suggesting a subcommittee and saying I'm questioning how fiscally sound our city is or what a great job our staff's doing. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I'll come to council meetings and not have a firm understanding. And so then I start asking questions and, or sending emails and getting, and I feel like I'm wasting everyone's time, like they understand. Just having that full understanding and not necessarily transparency, because that indicates that, oh, something's being hidden, but I'm not saying that there is, because I think our city does an awesome job, which is, as Councilmember Ewing said, we wouldn't have the credit rating we have if they weren't doing an amazing job. But just understanding what I'm looking at without a time constraint of we want to make our 8 o'clock, the meeting's got to be over. That's where I'm coming from. Or, feeling like I don't have the time to ask questions. And even though I recognize there are people that have been doing this for a very long time, there are people that haven't been. And when I'm going to vote on something, I want to have a firm understanding of what I'm voting on. But it is not in any way, shape, or form critical of our city or their staff.
And I don't think I don't have that feeling at all, Kim. And your questions are wonderful because they're probably questions that should be asked, right? That no one's asking. So we're here to vet it out, figure it out, and make sure everyone's comfortable with their vote, yay, nay, or abstain, right? Like, we're good with that.
And Kim, I just want to agree with you as well. I think for me, I really appreciate your input and what you shared. I think the challenge for me is when there's stuff that comes last minute. And I don't have the time to process it the way I'd like. And that doc thing was an example of something that, came on with limited notice. But I think that's the exception, not the rule. And so I appreciate the mayor and the city manager and Barb being available. If I have questions, they're always available for me to ask questions. And they help me understand where they're coming from, why they're, presenting the information they are.
Well, I'll, before I comment again, see if anybody else who hasn't spoken wants to.
I think in the future, there's probably a need for it. I don't know if now is the appropriate time, but when Councilmember Hilt was on the council, I think the city general budget was what, $13 million or something. It's what, 30 million now. We're playing with bigger dollars. And I think in the future, it's probably warranted as the complexity of the city operations. We only had what, 60 employees when you were on the council? We got 140. So I guess I would suggest we try Mayor Gailey's approach of a little more intense budget discussions, but keeping in mind that a budget committee in the future is probably warranted.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. And I mean, my ultimate goal in suggesting this, as I've mentioned, it's really just, I view this as one of our core functions as a legislative body is the budget. And so I would just like to see us more involved in that, and I completely agree with all the comments that have been said about the city staff and what a great job they do. And in kind of an ironic way for me, that makes it almost more important because it's easy to take your hands off the wheel when the car is driving itself. And I just want to make sure, and I'm not suggesting that this group is, but I just want to make sure that we don't get complacent because we're not always going to be here. The current staff is not always going to be here. If there's ever a change in the wrong direction, I want to make sure there's a mechanism in place that this body, whoever is on it, is in a position to quickly realize that. And it's not, oh, here's a report where our bond rating plummeted because something, slipped through the cracks. So I'm trying to be proactive and whatever form that takes, enhanced workshops, subcommittee, I'm open to all of that. And it sounds like we kind of have a direction, but that was kind of my goal for this. So.
Well, can I just add, Ryan, I appreciate you bringing it up because I want our city to go from it's in an outstanding position right now and see if we can take it to the next level, right? And so I think that's what your intent is. I think that's what Kim's intent is like, hey, let's see if we can do something better. And we're all about process improvements. I think we're trying to do that.
Okay, great. Let's, good discussion. Let's take it a motion to extend the meeting to 8:10. So we can do our 15-minute executive session. So
Second.
I got a so moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I got a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And anyone opposed? Okay.
Aye.
We're gonna, Thank you. I appreciate that.
Can I do it?
Please note that Councilmember George Sat is a contrarian.
Oh,
Thank you.
I love it. Hey, okay, I'll just make a quick announcement. No council meeting next week. July 8th is canceled. July 15th will be a special meeting. That'll be our last meeting before the summer break. It's looking lengthy, just a heads up, as we take care of things before the break. Now we're gonna go to executive session, RCW 423110,
And we'll
confidential session until
8:09.
8:09. It is 8:09 and we are back in session.
Okay, great. And with that, I would ask for a motion on the subject of our executive session.
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the letter of intent to purchase 14 and 26 99th Avenue Northeast with Pasta Kia and Associates and authorize the staff to start negotiations for the property sale.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the motion? I will add some discussion. I think that this moves the city forward and gets us going on that piece of property that's been sitting vacant and will provide a not only housing, but the potential for a great neighborhood and amenity. So all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, and with that, motion passes and I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.